It's 1964. Wait a second. No, it's not 1960. It's 1964. I am in my sophomore year of high school, and the family is basically stationed from San Francisco area to Tokyo, Japan. Uh, we move, and it's winter time, early in the year. As I am placed in the military school, which is a bus ride away from the home, the determination as to what classes I should be in goes through the general dance, and I should couch this that I'm probably in my second or third year of just kind of wondering about the whole educational process, because I've been in so many different schools, and seventh grade was like, I was in 3 different schools in 3 different states during that year, and it was a fiasco. Anyway, I'm placed into a biology class. I hadn't been in a biology class when I was in San Francisco, but they were just trying to find room for me in the classes that existed. So biology it is. And I arrive, and what are we doing? We're dissecting frogs. I don't know how many of you have been through that aspect of the biology classes, but there was something that just didn't sit right with me about that whole process. Yeah, the frogs were basically dead, so you could, you could hook them up to a battery and make their legs twitch if you want, but the reason I bring this up is because oftentimes in the astrological process, we astrologers, I'm going to include myself in the general melee there, are in a kind of a dissecting process, where we'll focus in on a particular planetary signature that is underway. I do this, yeah, and yet at the same time, the vision, particularly after the experiences of what it is that I went through shamanically last week. They're knocking hard on my door to make sure that I do not lose sight of a whole picture, of a process, an unfolding process that is underway. Now I'm going to, do the dissecting thing, perhaps not entirely as usual, but keep in mind, keep in heart, what is the soul signature have in store for this life dance process that we're all about. And I have to ask the question, are we just doing this as individuated beings, or is there some sense of a collective signature that is an invitation to all of us at the same time to find a commonality between us in what it is that the celestial beings, partners in this life dance, might be trying to tap us on the shoulders and see, what is it that we came together in this moment, to ferret out of this life dance process together. There's my preamble for the considerations for this next week. It's Saturday, 2026, the 15th of August. On this day, Mercury and Jupiter, they're together. They're at that 10 degrees of Leo. What kind of energies? Come up here, I go into my dissection mode. What kind of energies do you think are going to be revealed for us as we consider what does a Mercury conjoined with Jupiter in Leo want to express? We're talking Mercury here, and this is I'm using this generally for all of us, no matter what sign you are. That's where Mercury and Jupiter are. They're at 10 degrees of Leo. Mercury, being what, shall we say, influenced, there's a back and forth influence, of course, between this Mercury and Jupiter. Jupiter is like, in Leo, you can almost feel that urge, a sense to move forth. And Mercury right there with it. How are we going to move forth? We're going to say something. And, is it going to be minor? Oh, probably not. Because Jupiter wants to make a statement. And, but you have to keep in mind, what do the celestial beings that have come together, Mercury and Jupiter, at this 10 degrees of Leo, have as a vision for what it is that we might ponder deeply before opening our mouths too wide and blurting something out that may or may not be, shall we say, relevant, or maybe readily able to be engaged with one another as we consider this. We look at the Sabian symbol for that. It just gives you a kind of it's a different kind of, or a different level of insight into ways that energetically this 10 degrees of Leo can be brought into that configuration of Mercury and Jupiter holding hands together, and seeing if there's something in there that might inspire words that are relevant. Sabian symbol, what it reads is, children play on a swing hanging from the branches of a huge oak tree. Can you feel that? Feel the energy of an enormous oak tree. Very sturdy branches. Lord knows how long that swing has been there. But can you feel the attraction, the pull, if you will, in the children's hearts to want to be on that swing, to feel the wind as you swing forward out over what? Well, your vision of that experience, that image, is absolutely right for you in this moment. But feel the energy of what that, rush in the experience of being on that swing. Is there someone pushing you? Or have you learned how to kick your feet to accelerate yourself higher and higher? Can you feel that energy? And the mercurial thoughts, they jump into this consideration. The keynote for this, the power of tradition as it shelters the beginnings of individual self-expression. There's the tree. There's the heavy branch holding the swing. You are on the swing. The individual expression is, how do you experience that process? This is you and the swing and the tree and the wind. And the moment of exhilaration that is awakening within you. Speed. Gravity pulling and then letting go. And then pulling and then letting go. Can you feel that energy? You know? And what I am being asked in this moment for that particular signature is, how? Keywords for this: spontaneous activity of the innocent mind. Is there enough room within you, within me, within us in this moment to accelerate a connective vibration beyond that energy quotient that this swing, this oak tree, this experience, this scene can be an invitation one to another to present the opportunity to take your turn? Is it really yours? Or is it really ours? Haven't we both experienced this swing energy? There's a connectivity there between the earth holding the roots of that tree up, strong and steady, so that this experience can continue to transpire no matter who is on the swing. The connectivity, can you feel that connectivity? We're in a cycle right now where Mars has been out of bounds since the 3rd of this month, August, and will be out of bounds until the 18th, or the 28th, about almost the whole entire month. Well, Mars has a representation in this signature of, energetic potency. It's out of bounds. It says, I want to picture the swing again. I want to escape the control factors, even though it's only momentarily, of gravity. In a sense you could say that has a certain solar signature to it. You get to that high point, either in the backswing or the front swing, where it's like, where did gravity go? And then it's that rush again as gravity comes pulling you back down, saying, you are part of this earth dance, don't forget it. 2 days ago, this is Saturday, 15th, on the 13th of this month, Pluto went out of bounds. And will be out of bounds until December 4th. That's a long out of bounds signature. Now, it doesn't go very far out of bounds because, after all, it's an outer planet. It's way out there. But it would be foolish to demean the significance of Pluto's potency. Now, what two planets are out of bounds? Mars and Pluto, the two rulers of Scorpio. And that Scorpio part, we all have a Scorpio part in our celestial makeup. This is the arena where our curiosity has, attained questions that revolve around very deep and mysterious factors that seem to be in play, but, don't often get too much exposure in our conversations with one another. That's not Scorpio's happy land, because the mysteries and the secrets of this life experience within that Scorpio part that we all have, with both of its rulers being out of bounds, there's the opportunity for experiment, adventure into realms of the life process that don't generally invite us readily to participate in. Yet, they are a significant part of this process of being human. Or is it more than human? And where they come to the surface, poking up through the ground, if you will, is in the arena where we engage with one another at intimate, interpersonal wavelengths, where the opportunity for, some of the seeming barriers, if you will, that exist between us are going to be challenged, because we're stepping across a threshold into a realm where it isn't always a pre-planned life adventure. The experience of the life, death, rebirth process that Scorpio represents is not generally considered a comfortable zone for people to interact with one another, which I think is in a way silly, because it is the natural process that we all go through. And yet, what is it that has in some fashion curtailed our willingness to actually engage with one another in these formats? I can tell you what it is. It's a self that has been trained to reserve itself in such fashion that it stays protected, it thinks, within its own bubble from the interaction at that intense, meaningful level one with another. It says, I am so different. You are so different. And yet that's such a surfacey level of interaction to engage in. I must still be in my preamble because we're still on Saturday. I talked a little bit about the Moon-Venus connection that happens today. We're an overcast, so we don't really get to see those two celestial beings up there in the sky at sunset. Let's go into the week. Monday comes. Here we go into our dissection mode again. We'll start right out with Mars. Oh yeah, Mars. Here we are. What's Mars doing? Mars is what's in this in conjunct with its other compatriot Pluto. And in conjunct is an aspect where these are elements that generally they don't go out of their way to create an interaction between them. Air, Aquarius, where Pluto is, and water, Cancer, where Mars is, are kind of like, if you think of the elements, so fire and air elements, there's some kind of a dynamic energy that always, comes to the surface when those two elements come together, that they're inspiring each other. And the same can be said for the water and earth elements. When they get together, there's a camaraderie in what it is that they came to, develop together. So, and this is air and water. So it's kind of like, that's what the in conjunct is. A quincunx, 5/12 of a circle. But there's also the aspect up here between Mars and Neptune. A square. Again, we have elements talking to one another. Neptune's in fire. Mars, the ruler of that fire sign, Aries, is in water, down there in Cancer. It's kind of like, and fire and water, I can almost picture, the percolating experience of a cauldron. Lots of potential energy moving around, bumping into one another, not necessarily in a fashion that they are comfortable with. This is the initial starting to percolate within that cauldron of elements, Not yet at that homogenized version where the percolation has been going on for so long that the elements are starting to blend with one another. And so our out of bounds Mars here in the sign of Cancer, where it's not necessarily firing on all cylinders, yet it's still Mars in this square to Neptune that's in the sign that Mars has a very strong signature with, is trying to ask from a Martian Neptunian zone, what is it from the Aryan perspective that impulsively pushes forward in such a fashion that Mars, which is out of bounds, can see the potential for being able not just to be the warrior, but in some fashion to be the protector of something from the Aryan perspective that is newly presented from a Neptunian perspective of what broad version of soul awareness is stimulating the creative levels of imagination in the invention of something new, being inspired by an out-of-bound Mars in the sign of Cancer, saying, is there a way to amplify this water connective tissue of what it is that we came together to birth. Can you feel that potential energy at work there? This is only a part of the picture of the all that's going on. But this is how Monday starts out, a moon day. And what is our moon doing? Well, moon's up here in Libra. It's going to switch out of Libra into Scorpio this day. There's our Mars and Pluto out of bounds signature coming a little bit more close to the surface of our cauldron of percolating potential. On this same day, Mercury is forming a trine to Saturn retrograde over here in Aries. And remember on Saturday, today, the kickoff, if you will, of that Mercurial Jupiter energy wanting to utilize the opportunity from a Leonian solar perspective of presenting something forward, outward, from the self to investigate, to question, to have questions raised as to what am I about? As a Leonian sun asks this question always by pushing at the outer realms of self to interact with others, to get feedback as to, am I on the right path? Am I doing something? Tell me. Offer me response to what I'm presenting out there so that I might, from a solar sun Leo perspective, enhance my capacity of beingness. Can you feel that sun energy there? Radiating out, seeking that kind of input to enlarge itself? The next energies that leap onto the page for this particular week is Wednesday. On Wednesday, Mercury is at the degree of last week's solar eclipse. Sense, if you will, a thought process as to how best to utilize my creative capacities of communication to blend in with what was set up as opportunities to question at that new moon solar eclipse the version of changes that lie ahead, awaiting awakening into something that has not transpired before. That's how dynamic eclipse energy is. And this new moon that happened this last week at this very same degree set in motion a long footprint, longer than a normal new moon that usually lasts a month or a month, but can last up to 6 months depending on our willingness to embrace, if you will, some version of alteration of our trajectory forward that carries with it this solar lunar signature from the Leo perspective of what does being in a position of authority actually mean? What opportunities, if I'm willing to alter my perspective going forward, might unfold as I engage in not just, being a person of authority, but recognizing that each of us carries that same level of regality in very unique parts of our makeup that if we're willing to engage with one another in the willingness to be able to hear clearly where each of us is coming from, provide the willingness for the discovery of aspects within each other that are unique to our soul path we're on together as important parts of this interconnected dance that we are about. On this very same day, the moon has gone out of Scorpio into Sagittarius, and it is, you guessed it, out of bounds. So that linking up of now 3 planets out of bounds. Let's just look over here and see what our out of bounds are. Yeah. We have the moon, we have Mars, and we have Pluto. Anyway, the moon out of bounds. Might there be, from the Sagittarian perspective, this lunar signature that, unpredictably is seeking answers that lie just a bit beyond the context of what has been accepted as, these are the facts of life. Sagittarius is the experience of what else is there? The moon being out of bounds on there presents the opportunity to sense or feel that what else is there energy. And questions come up from a lunar perspective that brings in the people. That is what the moon represents, after all. That one celestial body that every month touches all of us as it goes around the planet in very unique fashion, if we're tuned into it appropriately. We recognize one another in each of those lunar signatures. And this out of bounds moon right now it's just right there saying, let's take a next step. Let's see where it goes. Let's see what else is there. I want to feel bigger in some fashion. It's the 22nd. The sun is down here at 29 degrees and 32 minutes, which means that it's a half a degree away from shifting from Leo into Virgo. The change of the seasons. Oh, well, let's go back one day. On Friday, Venus over here is exactly in opposition to our Saturn retrograde over here in Aries. Aries is the expression of self, the I am reality. Libra is the expression of the other. Venus is the ruler of that Libra other. And an opposition represents perspectives that, while not necessarily seeing eye to eye, have substantial relevance to the development of each side of this equation. The self requires others in order to discover capacities that it has, and others require that input that a version of self presents into the matrix of what does it mean to interact with one another, all selves, each one of us, in this life dance discovery process of how we, or why is it that we came together in this moment to discover that variety of selfhood that is the reason why there are others to bounce information off of in this discovery process. Now, back to our Saturday, a new sun. The sun shifting from that Leonian solar zone across, changing hats, putting on the Virgo hat, which has a mercurial signature to structurally, it's an earth sign, structurally discover the blending of how energies are brought together most efficiently to accomplish something. That's essential Virgo. And there is much more about that Virgo signature. But I'm not going to get into it till next week, because then we'll be definitely doing the Virgo dance. All of us together, that Virgo part of us, set in motion to discover the most efficient way forward for how that solar signature is going to be allowed to expand. All those parts, they're all tapping on our shoulders all the time to remind us that we have things to do together, and there are many, many parts to this together process that each of us brings unique perspective into in doing this life dance that we all came at this time to discover. We haven't really got it down if you look at the context of what humanity is about these days, as effectively as our soul signature has always been inclined to tap us deliberately on the shoulder to awaken to. We have work to do. That's all for this week. I'm going to let you go. See you all next week.